Hey everyone, we have a guest on the show today that needs no introduction, I think. It's Scott Hanselman. Welcome, Scott.
Very nice to be here. How many shows have you had, by the way?
This is the 20th episode. So we are doing pretty good, I think, for a new podcast. That started last April.
First of the new year.
There was an article in the New York Times that talked about the littered apocalypse of podcasts. The average podcast makes it 7 episodes. A group of friends gets together and they go, hey, we got to make a podcast. You know, when we hang out and we chat, it's so hilarious. We need to record that. And then they record it and they last 7 episodes because it's hard. It's hard to make a podcast, isn't it? And you and hanging out with your friends at the club or the socially distanced club or wherever you are is not nearly as hilarious as you thought it was when you had the idea to have the podcast. Podcasting's hard work, my friends.
Well, and you run a podcast. How many episodes are you on right now?
If I look at my Dropbox right now, I am recording episode 773 tomorrow.
Wow. So we have a way to go.
For 15 years, yeah. It's a marathon, right? Any kind of content creation decision is a marathon. And I think if I was like, hey, Courtney and Dan, start a blog. You should blog 4 days a week. And hey, you want a 6-pack? The only way to get a 6-pack is to do abs 6 days a week. It's never going to happen, right? But if I said, twice a week, no, once a week for half an hour. That's all I'm asking. That's how you do things. Slow and steady wins the race.
I love the philosophy. And speaking of which, if we're talking about podcasting, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but one of the inspirations that I personally had in starting a podcast was you, because I listened to your podcast since I was very young. What led you to start a podcast?
I just want the audience to just take a moment and just drink that in for a second, that I'm literally at the point in my career where people were like, I heard about your podcast in the 7th grade.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's backhanded compliment or
I'm officially old man who shakes fist at cloud.
No, but you're on TikTok. You can't say that.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that you were mentioning your TikTok.
Tape.
We're just talking that you're on TikTok. You can't say that you're one of the old folks. If you're on TikTok, you're automatically kind of reclassified into a new club.
I just think it's funny because the young people are creating, they're creating the new generation of content. But I'm also part of the generation that built the internet. So it's fun to be on both sides of that.
We had a guest, several episodes ago that was kind of talking about this like TikTok effect and how I had mentioned that TikTok to me, when I get on it, it actually elicits like an emotion of like happiness. Like my feed is like really well tailored and I get on there like for enjoyment and for entertainment. Like I am always laughing when I leave that app, which I find really curious because I don't get that from like other social spaces right now.
So what do you think that thoughtful thing that you've just brought up? This is genius because here's the deal. If you go to Twitter, you follow people. Fundamentally, if you go to your mentions in Twitter, it's people-based. If you go to Facebook and you like people, you like brands, you get the unfiltered stuff. So your people might be sad that day. They might be selling you something one day. They might be talking about a TV show the other day. It's really just people-based, sorted, descending. So it's like, here are the people I know, newest stuff first, and there's no literal curation. There's no thoughtfulness at all. But TikTok has this thing called FYP. It's the For You page. And what it is it's stuff that we think you like. It's literally the more stuff you like, the more TikTok learns who you are, and they just send you this joyful thing. So there were some young people on TikTok that were saying, like, I've never seen blank. I've never seen 2 cute best friends. And then, of course, someone comes in and goes, hey, this is my best friend. She's cute. And someone else said, I've never seen a black Scottish person. And then out of nowhere, this lady's like, hello. And then she like starts Black Scottish TikTok. And now there's like all the Black Scots are like hanging out together and I like them. So now I'll just get on my For You page and it's like, oh, it's Black Scottish people. Or it's Code Talk. So they start referring to their part of TikTok as like, I'm so happy I'm on basket weaving TikTok. So I started my TikTok last weekend because I was depressed about the politics. And then people show up and they're like, I didn't know there was programmer TikTok. Hey, we're on Code Talk. It's like, I want to stay here. And they'll comment and say, commenting so I can stay on programmer TikTok. They want to make it known that I've found my people.
And for me, that like I get on there again to release like anxiety and energy, and so this app really, this community actually has like a for me anyways, my feed is tailored to elicit happiness and relaxation. Like I watch painting videos, right? I don't go anywhere else to watch painting videos right now.
It knows you. TikTok has done a great job. It knows us more than anyone else, and it is very much a burst of just serotonin. And as I'm going through here, I've got like, I'm just scrolling through my TikTok here as an example for the folks who can't see us. Hijabis that do Taekwondo. That's a thing. And
that's a very niche thing, but it's fascinating
because there's dozens. Here's hustlers doing chess in New York in the park, ripping people off. You know, it's so fun. It's so fun.
And you recently kind of started your foray into TikTok, right? Like actually using it as a content creator. How was that?
Yeah, so yeah, I got off Twitter for a while because it was stressing me out. So I got on TikTok, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to dance, and I'm not going to try to compete. Like I can't compete with the raw creativity of a 7-year-old or a 20-year-old. But what can I offer? Well, right now at this stage in my life, like I was a stand-up comic before, and I did musical theater when I was in my 20s, but I'm not that guy right now, right? So I'm a dad. So I'm effectively doing dad talk, right? So today I did a TikTok about curating your space. Like I have 2 monitors. A lot of people are stuck at home and in their home offices with 2 monitors. And, the one on the left is used less than this one, but it also happens to be by my window. So I look out my window and it's gray and it's horrible and it's sad and it's Portland, right? It's bumming me out. So I go and I find a thing called 4K window scenes. It's literally super high, like 60 frames per second, 4K video for like 10 hours of a beach in Bali or the snow in Maine or whatever. And I decided to curate my space and make this 4K monitor a portal into a better place that isn't where I'm at right now. I made my reality my place. And I did a TikTok about that. And people are like, protect him at all costs. This is the wholesome content we're here for. Thanks, Dad. Like people want that sense. Do you both know who my Korean dad is? Are you familiar with my Korean dad?
Yeah.
No, I have no idea.
All right, Den. So there's a gentleman down in the Bay who owns a coffee shop, and he has made a thing called My Korean Dad. And he is, what is his name? I'll remember his name in a second. But he has a TikTok, and all it is him going, hey, it's me. Oh, Nick Cho. His name is Nick Cho. And he says, hi, I'm your Korean dad. You're working hard today. Let me make you a coffee. And then he brings the coffee like really close to the screen. He goes, you're doing great. Hey, let's go get some whatever kind of Korean thing that I've never heard of. So you're learning Korean vocabulary. You're like interacting with them. And people who haven't maybe had a great relationship with their parents or are lonely or they're sad and they're in the big city or whoever, people who are craving connection in this crazy time are really connecting to this guy, and he's got like 2 million followers, and it's very wholesome. It's very wholesome. It's like he's genuine. So, I'll be that person for people who want to get into code because they can do it, and I want them to know they can do it.
Wonderful. This is absolutely wonderful. I mean, I was just thinking that you brought up the vocabulary part, and one of my resolutions for this year is to learn Korean because my wife is Korean American, and there's a
whole section of TikTok on language learning, Korean word of the day. I'm on Chinese and Spanish for word of the day. A lot of great language learning stuff like that. It's just a joy. It's a very Courtney said it was joyful. It's a very joyful platform. If you like the stuff and you have to go out and like it or comment on it, and you teach TikTok who you are, 2 days, I guarantee you're going to have a feed of joy. Now be aware, I've actually turned my TikTok to commented. I only have 30 minutes a day on TikTok, and I have screen time turned on, so it actually threatens me. And then under your TikTok profile, you can go into digital well-being, and TikTok itself will warn you. One time this happened to me. I don't know if this happened to you before, Courtney. I'm scrolling, and a specific TikTok came up of a person from TikTok and told me to take a break.
Yep.
I was impressed by that, and it was like, whoa. you can lose an hour like that. It's raw, pure serotonin. So I can see why it's dangerous for the kids.
I heard somebody kind of refer to that the other day as like digital hygiene. Like you need to probably try and take care of your like mental space and what you're putting into your brain. And this was kind of caused by, the attack on the Capitol. And I was having this conversation with somebody I was working and I was fine. And then 3:30 rolled around and I literally lost everything. My whole day was shot at that point. Like I could not focus. And like, if I just wouldn't check Twitter, I would have been fine. And I had no way to know, like there was no warning for me. And we got into this topic of, digital hygiene. Can you like try to keep yourself in check in some way, or do like a Pomodoro technique, or are there ways of managing your brain? Because humans aren't, I'm sorry, but I just can't. I'm a single track person. I cannot do all of the things all the time. But I do want to get those little hits of dopamine and serotonin, right? Like I want to see something funny.
There's a couple of things that you just said there, Courtney. We're going to get along great. I like you already. A couple things here. First, I want to talk about intentionality and deliberate practice and what that means. Letting your life happen by default versus, not. And then TikTok is another inbox that we check, right? When I was coming up, I would only check my email, and that's where I lost time. And then Reddit, and then Twitter, and then Facebook, and then Slashdot, and then more and more places to check. And you would find yourself time traveling to 1 or 2 in the afternoon. If you check your phone before you pee in the morning, then you have a problem. I'm not saying that in an accusatory way. I'm saying that is that what you want your life to be right now? Now, if you are fully healthy and you like everything about yourself and your life is kicking butt and you are just rocking it and you have no problems and you don't think it's a problem at all, then ignore me. This is just a ramblings of an old man. But if you don't feel epic when you wake up in the morning and you check that thing and you don't lose time, keep going, right? But I feel bad. I'm like, oh crap, that's the 3rd day in a row that I checked TikTok before I peed. I'm challenging myself to not do that until noon. And what'll happen is
it's a very mindless thing, right? Like it's almost, you go on autopilot.
And what's the opposite of mindless? It's
deliberate.
Intentional. Deliberate, exactly. So deliberate practice is a thing that I'm trying to work on. Imagine taking kind of Buddhist concepts and concepts of deliberateness and mindfulness, Eastern concepts perhaps, and applying it to like Western productivity. When was the last time you set up a meeting with yourself to just ask yourself, what the heck am I doing with my life? Put it on your calendar, 4:00 on Friday. Sit there quietly, look down, close your eyes and go, all right, what's going on here? What's the tape that runs in your mind when you are quiet? And if the tape is, let me check my Twitter. We all do it. I'm not saying I'm immune to it. I'm just saying, like, what did we do in the toilet before iPhones?
That's true.
And when did we just poop peace?
There's an interesting
you have to go in your shower, right? You're not really taking your phone in there, I hope.
So there are now products. I'm getting advertisements for products on Instagram, which are like waterproof cases to put my iPhone in, to put it in, like it's a water. I have the iPhone 12. It's waterproof. Like I should probably be able to take it in the tub now, right?
Since I'm on a roll with the whole Seinfeld thing, it reminds me of that episode where Kramer was in the shower and he was getting the phone, making a salad in the shower and everything. Like, I think that's what we're getting at.
Making a salad.
But the interesting part, though, Scott, is what you're alluding to is also the fact that in this world of hyper productivity, where we're always kind of like, I need to be in the mode of doing things, something. It reaches a point where sometimes it almost makes you feel bad that you're not doing something productive, right? Like where you're doing something where it's like, wow, I'm doing nothing. I should be doing something. How do you fight that?
So that's called hustle culture. And it's that combined with FOMO, the fear of missing out. The fear of missing out is that guilt where it's like, man, I should have gone to the club, or I should have gone out with my friends. You know what I mean? Like I actually have a cousin that went out to a party and they knew that it wasn't a good idea and they should wear a mask, but people guilt you into doing stuff. So what is that thing inside you that tells you that the thing you need to do today is the thing you need to do, as opposed to letting your life happen by default? Like, oh, I'm going to go to that party and, oh, well, they took off their mask. I'll take off my mask. Or, I really need to work on my website, or I need to really study my physics test. But, oh, there's a new show and I'm going to binge on whatever. Discipline. I like binging on TV. But here's the thing. Discipline isn't unlimited. And it's not, I don't want to say I have discipline and you don't. It's a well. It's a well that you go to, and you have to fill that well back up. Okay. I'm binging on a show right now on Netflix called Arsène Lupin. I think it's French, Lupin, and Lupin is this gentleman thief, and I'm obsessed with this show. It's 7 hours long. Do I really? Could I burn? Like, do I wake up? Do I stay up all night? Do I stay up until 4? So I'm gonna watch it 2 hours at a time, and I'm gonna make it a gift that I'm gonna give myself after I have a great productive day. You see the difference? People are like, oh, I wish I had more time. You do have the time. Subtract it from those 7 hours of Netflix that you watched, or only watch Netflix when you're on a treadmill, which is the thing that I've started doing. If I want to watch one more episode, I'm going to walk another 3 miles.
So it's a little mental trick. It's a little mental trick for you to give yourself that carrot at the end of a good day.
It's totally 100% a mental trick that you do. Like, you're totally lying to yourself. Give yourself the gift of doing this thing. And also think about the vision for your week. Like, on Monday morning, you think to yourself, what would be a thing I could do this week where I wouldn't feel bad about myself? Like, what could I accomplish? If I wrote a blog post before Tuesday, or I did a project I'm working on at work before Thursday night, then I wouldn't have that sickening, gross feeling on Thursday where it's like, where'd my week go? I've done nothing this week. I guess I'll stay up late and I'll like work extra hard, like just today, right? Just today. I push through that. No one will notice. Like, they know one of these days my boss is going to call me and just tell me that I suck and just let me go. But like, maybe if I just get this one thing done, it'll be okay. Have those conversations truly with yourself on Monday morning and go, all right, I'm not going to check TikTok or anything before noon any day this week. And then I will give myself the gift of that when I accomplish something. And won't that feel great? Like a cheat day.
So you mentioned deliberate practice and being intentional. You know, that's a principle that you can apply to everything in your life that you're doing. What are some unexpected ways that this approach has kind of changed your life, right? Like things you didn't expect it to influence that it has, maybe for the better.
So my kids are now 15 and 13. And when they were 9 and whatever the math number is, 4 years ago, they said, hey, we want to do Taekwondo. I'm like, okay, we'll go to Taekwondo. So I'm sitting in a row of plastic chairs in the dojang at the Taekwondo place, watching my kids do Taekwondo, and I'm checking my phone. And as I'm sitting there, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm literally in like a gallery of parents watching our kids do Taekwondo. So I signed up, and my wife signed up, and we've been doing Taekwondo twice a week, plus all the exercise that we do, like all the practice that we do. But like, we have actual formal classes for 90 minutes twice a week for the last 4 years, and we're about a year away from our black belts in Taekwondo as a family. But there are still parents that are sitting in the gallery, right? Even during COVID, when we switched to online, we're doing it over Zoom. And then they come and we just got our purple belts, and now we're doing our brown belts, and the sensei will come and stand at the end of our driveway, and then we do our test in the garage, and he judges us. If I hadn't put my phone down in the gallery, I would still be sitting there today. Does that make sense? Now, do I love it? I mean, it's cool. It's exercise, but we're doing it anyway because we decided. We clicked custom instead of clicking next, finish when we did the window.
It's better than time traveling 4 years and having nothing to show for it. Because that's essentially what you would have traded. Yeah. You would have traded that plastic seat for this black belt that now you're going to have.
Days that it sucks. Now, I recognize that not everyone is able-bodied or has the privilege to do that, but while I have done this, I have had 2 shoulder surgeries. I have had 2 foot surgeries. So, like, I want you to be clear that it totally sucks, and I'm doing this. Like, I was doing Taekwondo 2 days after a shoulder surgery, and it wasn't perfect, and it was weird, and he was cool with some of the moves that we were doing, and he understood that there's limitations, and even now, the shoulder doesn't work quite right. I'm an old man working my way through it with another old guy, but we're freaking doing it, right? I wish I had been more deliberate in what I was doing 20 years ago. So that's why I'm telling people that. But remember that there are days you don't want to do it. But I heard an older gentleman on TikTok say that if you want to know what the right thing to do is, it's probably the thing you don't want to do. And if you do it, now you're disciplined. You're not always going to get it right. You're sometimes going to fall off the wagon. But if you do the thing you don't want to do, it's probably the right thing.
So I actually want to touch on a topic that you also kind of alluded to, and this is where you mentioned the hustle culture, or as people refer to it today as like the hustle porn, where people are showing you these things where like I wake up at 4 a.m. and I just keep working until midnight, and then I sleep 3 hours and I'm back at it.
It's all lies.
Right, and
it's not
like
healthy.
Mark Wahlberg's workout schedule or whatever. He wakes up at 3 a.m. or something.
Here's the thing, right? What's his name? Not Cal Penn, but the guy in the Eternals. I'll get his name. He just recently got a 6-pack.
Kumail Nanjiani.
Kumail Nanjiani, right? Amazing actor, director, comedian. He's like, yeah, it's totally easy. Like, I don't know why everyone doesn't have a body like this, right? All you have to do is work out 6 days a week for 2 years, have like Marvel level coaching and like food delivered to your house. Like, we should all do this, right? But but what's cool about it and why I give him 100% credit is he freaking decided to do it. So then rather than me feeling guilty that I don't have those things, I instead accept that I intentionally decided not to. You see the difference? Like, I can be as fit as I can given constraints, but one of the constraints is me deciding to do it. So I didn't do it, and that's okay. And I have to forgive myself for that and say, like, I can't do all of these things.
Well, and it's an interesting point because on our show, we often talk about people's careers, how they built them. And there's this pervasive image that if you're not hustling, if you're not this person that wakes up at 4 a.m. every morning, then you're going to get overtaken by people around you. You're going to fail at your career. You're going to fail at your whatever startup you're building. You've built a pretty successful career by all measures. How did you do that?
Well, let me push back. Successful what? Says who? What's success? How do you figure I'm successful? What are you basing that on?
I guess it's a good question. It's based on the popular perception of what a career should be.
Perception is BS. Next question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, Scott, that like from the outside looking at you, it's like you have thousands of followers. You're great at creating content. You're very influential when it comes to developer relations and that type of thing. It wasn't that easy always, right? Like,
I'm teasing a little bit.
Where's the snowball?
I'm teasing a little bit, but there's still something important. Like, I've asked you what success is, and you said thousands of followers, and Dan was like, well, a good career, but like, what does any of that mean, right? Like money? Do I have a private jet? I do not, right? My wife drives a 2001 Honda Civic, right? I'm sure I could probably buy her a Tesla if she wanted one, but she doesn't. If you look at my Instagram feed, I'm at Goodwill 3 days a week. So what is success? The people who are doing hustle culture, good for them, right? Like, you're a startup, you're a founder, you live in the Bay, but like, to what end? Is the goal to be the CEO of something and have a pile of money and then do what, right? And then have an aneurysm at 45 and pop? Like, are you happy? Are you doing what feeds your spirit? I did not plan to have any kind of developer relation career. I'm a teacher. I'm a professor. I will teach high school. I taught college at 2 different universities before this as an adjunct professor. All I'm doing is being a professional enthusiast. I'm just excited about stuff, and I'm just doing that, right? But I still have to ship things. I mean, I own the .NET. Dan, you know this. You work with me. I had to build the .NET. I work on the .NET website. I have to ship .NET and stuff, and have a whole team we work on those kind of things. And then, I'm doing TikTok on the side or at night. I do the podcast in the evenings, just like we're doing a podcast right now in an evening. There are sacrifices right now. You know what I mean? But we're being intentional about it. The question is, do you let what happens just happen? That's cool. You can do that as long as you're okay with it. Or do you try to in some way curate or apply intentionality to what you're doing? I could stop the podcast tomorrow. Would that hurt the brand? Would I make a couple $100 less a month in advertising? Probably, Like, do I like doing the show? Yes. Do I like doing my YouTube? Am I having fun this week with my TikTok? If I were like an actual brand, like iJustine or someone like that, right? And I decided to shut down a TikTok. Or you hear about these YouTubers that are like burned out. Oh my God, doing 2 videos a day for 6 months. That's because it's their freaking rent, right? You got to find a balance. I'm very happy. I'm upper middle class, get paid a good wage, not a VP of anything. I don't want to be a freaking VP of anything because I wouldn't be able to see my kids, man. You know what I'm saying?
Like you have a lot of friends, right? You have a lot of people in your life.
And they're not my followers. And you should go and Google with Bing for the parasocial relationship. Are you familiar with that term, parasocial?
No, I'm not.
Okay. It's so I used to use the term lowercase f friends and uppercase f friends. So that makes immediate sense. Like I just defined the term just by using the term. There are your friends that you text and you check in with occasionally. But if you need to get picked up in the airport or your partner leaves you, who do you call? Those are your uppercase F friends. If you can have 6 of those or less than 10, you're winning at life. Maybe if you even have 1 or 2 great uppercase F friends where like, I'm stuck in a city, pick me up at the airport, help me out, I need a couch. But those aren't your followers. That's a parasocial relationship. People on Twitter, they don't know my kids' names. They may think they do, but it's an illusion because they've never shared their names. They may think that they've seen them before, but they've seen them in silhouette or from the back of their heads or whatever. You have to be conscious about who's on the inner circle and who's on the outer circle. That doesn't mean I'm not friendly towards all of my folks that follow me and I follow them. I think of them as colleagues, professional acquaintances. They're lovely people, but they are lowercase f friends unless they're texting me. Does that make sense? And then this gets back to deliberateness and curation. That's the point.
Right. And it's the contrast between, I like to refer to those as kind of the vanity metrics of your life, right? Where people measure their how much better they are based on the number of followers, or how much better they are based on like how many viral videos I made, or anything like that.
I respectfully push back on that, and I would reject that as a valuable metric at all.
Right.
Because
right.
You put vanity in front of it.
Right. Exactly. It's meaningless. It's not important.
Folks start chasing the wrong thing, and then they realize that it's empty. Right. You kind of mentioned the YouTube burnout, or.
Well, and I think when we figure out whatever that thing is that we want, if it's human connection, if it's a partner, if it's a business, whatever the thing that makes you happy, if the vanity metrics feed your spirit, then more power to you. Chase the followers. If you want to buy a house or meet a partner or have kids or build a thing or start a nonprofit, whatever the thing is, you got to figure out what that is. And if you can figure it out earlier, that's the better. And that thing might change. This is another really important thing. And again, I'm speaking a little bit to you all with some age-related distance, no disrespect, because you're me in the past or I'm you in the future, is if you can figure out, before you're 20, before you're 30, before you're 40, that you like a thing and you want to do that thing, do that. My wife got an MBA and worked at a nonprofit and ran a finance department. And then one day she says, I don't like doing this anymore. I want to do something else. So she decides to become a nurse. She quit her job. She went and got her 4th degree, right? And said, I'm going to become a nurse. And she was the oldest person in the nursing program by 20 years. But just like we said, we started Taekwondo 4 years ago. She did this 5 years ago. She's now almost a half decade into her nursing career. And if she hadn't done that, fast forward 5 years, she'd be unhappy working at this nonprofit in the finance department. So she's been blessed to have 2 entirely different careers in one life. And that doesn't mean that at 50 or 60, she couldn't go back and become a doctor if she felt like it.
So to that extent, Scott, I just wanted to mention that your wife is doing some amazing work right now. She's working the COVID ward, right?
Yeah, she's a night nurse at our local hospital, and she works the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So she has the full, called the PPE, the bunny suit, and the whole thing. It's quite a lot of equipment to hang out with folks that have COVID.
So just a totally tangent, but thank you so much to your wife for doing this. I know that we're all kind of struggling with a lot of things today, but it's thanks to people like her that we get to do a lot of things that we get to do.
Yeah, she's learning a lot. She has had her 2nd shot, by the way, so she's now hopefully.
Oh, amazing!
vaccine. She got that day before yesterday. Her arm is sore, but nothing else. No issues.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, that's fantastic to hear. And given that you have a wife that works a stressful job, I'm sure you work a stressful job. How do you find time to balance things in your life and kind of disconnect? What's your approach to that? Because we talked a lot about kind of the electronic side of things, where podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. But what do you do to disconnect, or do you disconnect?
My wife and I sit down and we talk to each other about what we want to do this week and what we want to accomplish. And when she says, "Hey, what are we going to do this week?" Like basically she says, "What's your week look like?" Like I said, "Well, I just finished Cyberpunk 2077. I'd like to play some Red Dead this week. I'm starting Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a video game on Xbox." She says, "Okay, well, let me look at my schedule. I'm working on Tuesday night." So she works on Tuesday night. The kids will be in sleep by 8:30 or 9. So I can play Red Dead on Tuesday from 9 to about 2 a.m. So there's 5 hours I get to play video games this week. If you don't make a plan, then it will build resentment. You see, unspoken. I think there's a phrase about this. Unspoken expectations are future resentments. Right? So I don't know if either of you have partners, but you know how it's like 3 o'clock and it's 4 o'clock and it's 5 o'clock. It's like, well, what's dinner tonight? Like, what are we doing? Who's making dinner? I thought it was your turn. Those conversations, those can be solved. Those arguments in the afternoon can be solved by the conversation in the morning. What's the plan today? Okay, I'll do dinner tonight. Right? So I made dinner yesterday. I'm making dinner tomorrow. I told her I had a podcast tonight at 5. She says, "Cool. I will support you by making dinner tonight if you do it yesterday and tomorrow." By simply having the conversation a priori, as they say, ahead of time, previously, then the resentment goes away. But if I always worked late, always assumed that my already full-time job having spouse is going to somehow fulfill a gender role that is totally arbitrary and make dinner, then we're going to have this awkward conversation at 6, 7 o'clock when I finally decide to emerge from my office. "Where's dinner? What's going on? What's the plan?" Hey, can we have a conversation? It's your turn, man. It's on the Google Calendar.
So you actually have a shared family calendar.
We have a shared family calendar. We do a thing called a DAK board, DAK board. It's literally a Raspberry Pi with a 20-inch monitor that's mounted on the wall with a plan. It's a magic mirror. It's in the kitchen.
Oh, that itself is amazing.
We also plan daddy days and mommy days, which are days where each of us get to check out. And she'll go, "Hey, it's Thursday. Deuces, I'm out." And she just leaves. Go have tea with the kids or go sit in a car in the parking lot, right? Like, people need freaking time off. I've actually talked to people who have said, "I haven't left the house in 7 months." You can drive somewhere and just park in a parking lot somewhere and just not be here, or play VR, whatever. Like, what is it? What do you need to not be resentful of your job, of our partnership, of the kids? Like, just that permission. Like, it's okay to leave, right? Like, you can just not be here. Go for a walk. No strings attached. I got dinner tonight. My wife likes Hallmark movies, and I like watching this French crime movie. So we're taking turns. Just saying that. Okay, so odd numbers days you'll watch Hallmark, and even number days we'll watch my show. That's cool. But if it's like after the 5th Hallmark movie in a row, it's like, dude, can I watch my own show? Now I'm resentful. You see the difference?
You make it sound so simple. It's one of those things where, you hear it and it seems common sense, but then you kind of internalize it better when somebody tells you, and you're like, "Oh, wait a second, you can do that, right?"
The reality is we're 3 guys on a podcast, right? There's not a woman here. And I don't know if your partners are men or women, but there are gender roles, there are awkward roles, there are personality roles that get internalized. And if you don't stop and be intentional about it and be mentally present, you can accidentally realize that, wow, my partner's washed my underwear for the last 4 days. That's not cool. And then the next, and 4 days becomes a week, becomes a month. And the next thing you know, 2 people have 2 full-time jobs, and one of us is the only one that does the dishes, and one of us is the only one that cooks. Challenge that and say, is this a fair, or am I a crappy roommate, Den? Right? Courtney, are you a bad roommate? Like, ask yourself that. And if you are, go to your partner tonight after the podcast and say, I didn't realize this, but I'm a pretty mediocre roommate. And I'm going to decide not. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to make it perfect the next day, but that you're conscious now and you're awake, and then you're going to try to do better. Make a Post-it note and put it on the mirror when you get up and you look at the mirror and you say, all right, trash can's mine today. I'm going to do the dishes. You get the packages. I'll get the mail. Like, don't be a crappy roommate. That's number one relationship rule. Because if you're a bad roommate, you should probably be a lousy partner.
And it's interesting because, too, it's situational, right? Because sometimes your partner is just not going to feel well, for example, to do something that maybe they signed up to do. And then it's on you to kind of step in and help.
So yesterday, we were supposed to do a podcast yesterday. And I texted you and I said, listen, I didn't really think. I didn't realize it was a Sunday. I thought the family would be asleep. Honestly, this is just not a good day to do a podcast. Can we move it? Now, we have to do the podcast outside work hours. So when can I do it? Well, outside work hours takes away from the family. But 5 to 6 on a Monday was better than 1 o'clock on a Sunday. And you were accommodating and we rescheduled. We were intentional about it. But I needed that Sunday because it was not the time to be doing a show. Courtney, we've been taking up time, and I thought you looked like you were going to say something a few times.
No. I was just working on a message in the chat, but I think it goes back to deliberate practice and being intentional. Just, again, your core kind of principle that you're coalescing around for really everything in your life.
Mm-hmm. And if one can learn that earlier, and if we as computer people, as men, as partners can do that, we can try to reset things and say, I don't want resentment. Resentment is kind of the killer, right? When we go back to hustle culture and business plans and how to build a product, and then to apply that to your marriage. When we got married, my MBA having wife said, we need a plan. And people put more work in their business plans than they do in their marriages. So she says, we're making a plan. So we made a list of this we believe. And it was like, well, because here's the thing. I've been married 21 years. I have not told a lot of people this, but we had our first date in July of 2000, and we got married that October. August, September, October. So 3 months later, we had one big date, and that date turned out to be planes, trains, and automobiles. And we spent 3 weeks on the road, driving from Portland to Delaware. And we went to the Grand Canyon, and we went to Oklahoma, and we went to Denver. And we realized that I don't want to kill you. You're the first person I've hung out with for more than 2 weeks, and I didn't want to throttle. She's like, this is like a thing. We should let's just freaking get married. But we didn't know if we were like, are we pet compatible? Like, does she do weird things with the toothbrush, or like, is there, all the different things, right? So she's like, we got to make a plan here. What are the things we believe? What are the shared values? People spend a lot of time writing their vows, but what kind of person makes a business plan about what this company that we're building is? Well, that kind of person's my wife.
It's a fascinating contrast because you're absolutely right. This is one of those things where sometimes I see the contrast of folks thinking so much about their startup, like, let's make this career plan for 10 years. But when it comes to the people that are closest to them, there's this almost, I want to say, like, willful ignorance of just saying like, oh, it's kind of there. It works.
Willful ignorance speaks to maliciousness. This is time passing accidentally without intentionality.
Right.
You just default. And I'm not perfect. I'm guilty of this. I'm up 25 pounds right now. I've gained the COVID 25. I'm as big as I've ever been in my life. And I decided I I didn't notice that. Well, I'm doing all these other intentional things. I didn't notice that. And I stopped about a week ago and I was like, this is not okay anymore. I don't like this. And now I'm back to, I'm doing some calorie counting. I also have type 1 diabetes that I have to think about. I'm working out. So I got Apple Fitness, I got my watch, and I am being consciously focused. And I have closed my rings. If you're familiar with the Apple Watch, it's the 10,000 steps for hipsters. I've closed my rings every single day consistently since September. I'm putting real, like if you can literally look at the chart and tell when I got serious. Doesn't mean I won't fall off the wagon, but it shows that I am turning my attention to something that is important. So my wife and I are doing the Apple Fitness, which is like Peloton for poor people. And, I went and got a treadmill at Goodwill, and I put my iPad on the thing, and we're doing the high intensity workouts together. So we're walking every day 3 miles. We're doing I TikTok, by the way, on the walks. You can see it in my TikTok. We're doing the Taekwondo twice a week, and then we do the treadmill, and that means that we're active. And then tomorrow I actually have a little cheapo treadmill that's going to put under my standing desk. All of this is just trying to be intentional about what I'm doing, because I wasn't realizing that I wasn't moving 6-7 hours a day. It snuck up on me. Life sneaks up on you, and that's okay, whether it's marriage or job or whatever. Intentionality and mindfulness is the time for us to stop and slow life down for a second. It'll still speed up and it'll catch up with you again, and that's okay. But every time you reset is a new opportunity to turn it all around. Tomorrow is an opportunity to change it all.
There is an interesting tangent that I want to kind of get into based on what you said. You kind of mentioned offhand that you have diabetes. And I would be curious, given the lifestyle that you described, given that you do so many things, how did it affect your kind of, I want to say just career? How did your personal life? How do you manage to have this kind of condition and do all these things?
Everybody's got something you can't see. There's the stuff that you can see, gender and color and, maybe socioeconomic stuff, or things you can hear, whether someone has an accent or not. But a lot of people don't have stuff you can't see. Could be they're a vet, could be wooden leg, could be diabetes. Like, if the thing that diabetes as a disability has given me is an appreciation for, I don't know what people are going through. You don't know what's going on in their families. You don't know what's going on in their life, their job. So I try to, it has given me a huge amount of empathy, because when I got diabetes, it knocked me on my ass. And I had already been, I was legally blind and had laser surgery to have LASIK. I was, 20/1600, -11 diopters, couldn't see my feet, big, thick glasses. I got a big bump on my nose from wearing, this isn't a genetic bump on my nose. This is from wearing really, really, really thick, goggles for many, many years. So having kind of two things that made me a lousy caveman. I was always like, man, if I was born in any other century, I would be in the back of the cave and I'd be hiding out while everybody else was hunting and gathering. There's not a lot of blind software engineers with diabetes on The Walking Dead, right? When the apocalypse comes, I'm the first one to go. Like, I'm the juicy one they're going to eat. So it has given me a huge amount of empathy for other people, and if you have a thing, you need to recognize that everybody has a thing.
And that part itself, I think, is challenging, because as we're talking about all these activities, I'm sure it's distracting, right? Like, I'm sure it's not like something that it's in your back of your mind. Yeah, it's there. I got it under control. Like, it's a condition that you have to practically manage.
It is a 100% active thing. Here's a way of looking at it. It is 5% of your CPU all the time. It's that system process that you see in the task manager. And when things, kind of anti-privileges, start racking up, you know what I mean? you're black, or you're disabled, or you are a woman, or any person of color, or you're in a disability, or whatever. Just start racking it up. You've seen those experiments on YouTube where someone says, all right, you grew up in foster care, step back one, and you had two parents, step forward one, and you start seeing where people land. You start appreciating the privileges that you have. So yeah, one thing sets you back, another thing puts you 2 steps forward. Type 1 diabetes sucks. Yes. Does it slow me down? Yeah, it's a 5% background process that I wish I could click end task on. Is it the defining aspect of my life, and is it a thing that I've overcome? It sucks. But I am vertical, and who am I to complain? It is not the defining identity thing, and it is a tiny, tiny, tiny thing that has caused me some minor inconveniences and a couple of surgeries and some stuff like that.
So my number one question coming into this was, I wanted to have you speak to us a little bit about something that you're interested and passionate about that you rarely get to talk about, that people rarely ask you about.
My TikTok?
Yeah, there you go. It's new.
What
right?
do people? I don't know. What do people not ask me about? I don't know, man. That's a good question. Like, that's
what
private
are you interested
stuff.
in that just seems so like niche, or like you don't really like?
Okay, I'll give you something totally random. I had an extent, and this is private, but you can decide how you want to edit this, right? I had an extended, interesting conversation about the Vogue cover of Kamala Harris and how it was lit and photographed. And we then had an extended conversation about Vogue Arabia and Anna Wintour and how she deals with the Vogue covers. And it was a whole conversation about photography, lighting, fashion, set dressing, coloring, how you film people of color in how you light a set. And it was just one of the kind of intersections of fashion and popular culture and politics that I have an interest in.
So you mentioned, I think before, that you were in theater. Is that right?
Yeah.
So is that, I mean, the lighting and like being around stage work, like does that play into it at all? Like where did the interest come from?
It was more, well, the I don't know where the theater interest came from, but this one was more about, it was the intersection of all the different things that I was interested in in the creation and curation of popular media. Like, you have a great camera. You've put a lot of work into your ring light, your camera. It looks fantastic. You know what I mean? That's an interest of yours, lighting and photography and space. I like fashion. I like photography. I like, I've always been a Vogue subscriber. I am impressed by all the things that come together for a simple single image, from the set, the dressing, the makeup, the hair. Like, there's a lot of stuff there. It's a project management nightmare to get one thing, one image. Now, of course,
absolutely,
the physical image, by the way, of the Kamala Harris Vogue cover is just trash. It's a horrible, horrible shot. The digital image is much better. But if you want to go and like Google for Vogue and Kamala Harris, just politics regardless, it is a fascinating failure. And then they're trying to turn it around and make a much better image. It's a huge controversy in the fashionista community.
I have an interesting question that I'm curious about, because we talk about so many things, and you seem to have knowledge on this wide variety of topics, right? Like a polymath, essentially. You know .NET. You talk about fashion. You go on TikTok and explain to people what's a bit and a byte. How do you learn?
I was so impressed that I could do it with my fingers.
It was a lovely format. It was fantastic. But how do you learn, or how do you grow your personal knowledge base, if you will?
If you're mindful, you will absorb things. If you lose a day or two or a week, you lose that joy, that consciousness. I think I've said this to you when we worked together, Dan, the difference between having 20 years experience versus having the same year 20 times. I'm not saying that I've had 20 or 30 years of explicit experience. Some of those years I lost, like year 14, right? Or year 7. They just happened. The whole year was a waste. Like much of 2002 was just a trash year. I lost the whole year. I don't remember any of it, right? Your years and your time will be slower if you can stop and exhale and have as many mindful moments as possible. So when I say I go on a walk with my wife, I'm looking at stuff. I'm talking to her. I'm absorbing things. Those things might be, oh, there's a new surveillance camera that the school put up there, or, oh, that fence is new, or how's this construction happening? If you can be truly fascinated by all aspects of life, from how the tar was put down to, oh, what's going on over there? And, oh, that architecture, that building is new. And all of those things can turn into a Wikipedia search or a video or a masterclass or a podcast or something. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you lose days.
Totally.
The goal is to have as many of those days as possible. I'm not saying I've solved the problem. Like I get blue, I get down, I have whole weeks that I'll lose. But the more conscious days you have, the more you'll feel.
I feel like the entire podcast theme has been intentionality. That's how we can summarize it.
I'll take that.
And Courtney, you had a comment on Scott's description.
It reminds me of the new movie Soul, like Soul Cat. Take it all in, right? The more conscious days you have, the more you're going to feel, the more you're going to find your soul.
Well, here, so look at this. I'm looking at my Twitter feed here, and I talked about that curation. Now, let's talk. This will be our ending here. I said, curate your space, make a monitor a window, and turn it into a portal. Everyone seems to like it. I'm looking here. It's got 4,000 views. This is an hour ago. Great. People resonated with that content. Here's a gentleman who replied, "You're kidding, right?" Okay. That sounds like that content didn't resonate with that person. They think that having a monitor to make you not feel bad or to just take a minute and play music that makes you happy, that my message didn't meet that person. Should I try to convince them? Should I no, I just replied, I'm 100% not kidding. If yoga sounds dumb, if exhaling sounds dumb, if the Breathe app on the iWatch or whatever sounds dumb, then don't do it. I'm not selling you anything. It's cool. Don't do it then. You see what I'm saying? If what you're doing, if you think that life, your life, how you're living it, kicks ass, ignore me. The great thing about his advice is you don't have to take any of it. It doesn't hurt me at all. My life is kicking butt. My life's goal is to help you find a life that also kicks butt.
I love it. I feel like after today's podcast, I'll leave just super inspired to make my life a little better and more intentional.
If Courtney, you wake up in the morning and you're happy, then you're doing the right thing, and I admire you for it. If you're not, let's find out why. Could be job, could be whatever, could be you ate the wrong thing yesterday. Every day is a new day to try something new. Your thing is your thing. You find the thing. Don't do my thing. Do your own thing. Just try something new.
I love this. And what a good note to wrap up our completely non-tech podcast. So Scott, thank you again for coming on the show and talking about this. It's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. And I feel like we were very honored that you came and shifted some of your day to be here. We'll include the podcast show notes with links to your blog, your Twitter, and your TikTok so that people can discover you directly in addition to the algorithmic feed.
It's my new thing. I'm gonna get rich on TikTok. Oh my God.
Right, exactly. So hopefully that will not lead you to quit Microsoft. Please, we need you. No matter how rich you get.
My 13-year-old is like, you've got all these followers on TikTok. I'm okay. What am I going to do with that? I have exactly $0. You have this many followers on Twitter. Yay. It doesn't change anything. I don't care.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Scott. And again, thank you for being here.
Very, very nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me, Den, and very nice to meet you, Courtney.